Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really plunging into a topic that, well, it underpins so much of our daily lives, even if it's sometimes hidden: mental health in the workplace.
That's right. It's crucial.
We've gathered, a really rich array of sources, everything from organizational policies, risk assessment frameworks, to the really profound impact of our own lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
Our mission for this deep dive, it's to cut through all the noise, extract the most vital insights, the actionable knowledge. We want to give you, our listener, a clear shortcut to understanding how organizations can genuinely foster better mental well-being, and importantly, how these principles stretch far beyond the office walls.
It's fascinating, actually, because this isn't just some niche concern anymore. It's really front and center globally.
Right.
We'll be exploring how robust global frameworks, like the World Health Organization's classification of interventions, they give us a universal lens on this really essential topic. It's about moving beyond just reacting, towards proactively building environments where mental health doesn't just sort of survive, but actually thrives.
And when we talk about why this matters so much, we have to acknowledge the very real, often hidden costs of mental ill health. The workplace, unfortunately, it can sometimes amplify symptoms.
It really can.
We might see, increased tiredness that isn't just about a busy week, or maybe a tendency to put off difficult tasks, procrastination.
Yeah, avoidance.
Exactly. Or even, in roles that carry physical risks, a dip in concentration that could have, serious consequences. These aren't just individual struggles. They really ripple outwards.
And historically, society has compounded these challenges with a really persistent issue: stigma and discrimination.
Yeah.
This has unjustly excluded so many people with mental ill health from meaningful work. Our sources, they highlight a powerful insight from rethink.org, which puts it this way. If more people knew about the nature of mental illness, they would understand that it doesn't mean people are unable to contribute to society.
Yeah.
The mentally ill are the most keen to work out of all those with disabilities, and yet it is a common experience for people to be discriminated against at work, to be passed over for promotion, to lose their job, or not even be considered when applying for one. It's quite an indictment, isn't it?
It really is. And that quote, it just underscores a critical point. This isn't straightforward cause and effect. It often creates this vicious cycle.
Exactly.
People dealing with mental ill health are frequently pushed out of the workforce, right? But then that prolonged absence itself, that can deeply damage both physical and mental health.
It feeds on itself.
It really does. It can spiral into social exclusion, isolation, a really devastating loss of confidence, low self-esteem, and critically, it can intensify existing anxiety or depression. It's a cruel paradox, isn't it? The very lack of work makes the conditions that led to the exclusion even worse.
Precisely. So while there's an undeniable ethical imperative and, clear legal duties like disability and equality legislation for employers to manage mental health.
Sure, the compliance aspect.
Right. But it's also a really powerful business case. Organizations that prioritize mental well-being, they aren't just doing the right thing. They're actively working to reduce illness, save lives, and save money, all while building a more resilient, more engaged workforce. It's just smart, sustainable practice.
Okay, so given those stakes, what are the true hallmarks of a mentally healthy workplace? What should we be looking for?
Well, our sources point to several key factors, and these seem to apply regardless of how big the organization is. We're talking about, first, strong leadership. Leaders who actually champion well-being. Then managers who are not just accountable, but also genuinely skilled in, people management.
People skills, yeah.
Exactly. And smart systems for monitoring overall worker health, like actually using sickness absence records for insights, not just tracking days off.
Right, looking for patterns.
It's also about empowering employees to take some charge of their own health, actively consulting with worker representatives, and crucially, designing jobs for good work.
Good work.
Yeah.
What exactly does that entail?
It means work that feels fulfilling, that's manageable, and provides a real sense of purpose and contribution, not just a grind.
Makes sense.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about weaving mental health into the very fabric of the organization.
Not just an add-on.
Definitely not an add-on or a separate initiative. This needs a truly holistic response where, safety professionals, occupational health services, HR, they aren't operating in silos.
They need to talk to each other.
Exactly. Coordinate their activities, create a unified front for well-being.
And a cornerstone of that kind of holistic, proactive approach has to be formal risk assessment, right?
Absolutely.
Even if specific national laws for work-related stress aren't everywhere, general health and safety legislation often implies a duty to assess all risks. And that includes stress and mental ill health. It's about prevention.
Prevention, precisely. And the good news is the standard 5-step approach to risk assessment, which is familiar in lots of safety contexts, it can be adapted really effectively for work-related stress and mental ill health.
Okay, so what are those 5 steps, just as a refresher?
Sure. It's essentially a structured way to solve the problem. Step 1, identify the risk factors. What are the potential stressors?
Right.
Step 2, identify who might be harmed by these factors. Are certain groups more exposed?
Okay.
Step 3, evaluate the risks. Explore the problems, identify potential solutions. This is where the analysis happens. Step 4, record your findings. And, crucially, implement those solutions. Don't just leave it as a report on a shelf.
Action is key.
Absolutely. And finally, step 5, monitor and review. Assess if the solutions are actually working. It's a dynamic cycle, not a one-off task.
And to actually, do those steps, what tools do organizations use? How do they gather that information?
Well, there's a whole range of tools, actually. It's not just about tick boxes. You need real, actionable information.
Like what?
Things like discussions, focus groups with employees getting direct feedback, analyzing sickness absence data for patterns, as we mentioned, conducting one-on-one interviews, and using targeted surveys or questionnaires.
Okay.
Which brings us to a really crucial point. Why is prevention always better than cure in this context?
Good question.
This whole risk assessment approach, it's fundamentally designed to minimize the number of cases of mental ill health across the whole organization. It does this by adopting broad organization-wide control measures. So it strategically removes or reduces the factors that cause stress for everyone.
So it makes individual vulnerabilities less of a primary issue.
Exactly. It makes them secondary. It's far more effective and, frankly, more fair than just reacting to individual cases after the harm is already done.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so with these principles in mind, what does this look like when an organization really puts it into action? You mentioned frameworks earlier.
Yes, a widely recognized and really practical example is the UK's HSE, that's the Health and Safety Executive, their management standards approach. It offers a very concrete blueprint.
The HSE management standards. Okay, what are they?
So there are 6 standards, and they basically define the culture of an organization that's proactively controlling risks from work-related stress. They set clear goals.
6 areas to focus on.
Right. First is demands. This looks at things like workload, work patterns, the environment itself.
Okay.
Then control, making sure employees actually have some say in how their work gets done.
Empowerment.
Third is support. That's encouragement, resources, backing from the organization, from line management, from colleagues.
So feeling supported.
Exactly. Fourth, relationships. Fostering positive interactions, preventing conflict, dealing properly with unacceptable behavior.
Got it.
Fifth is role. Ensuring clarity about what people are supposed to be doing. Preventing conflicting responsibilities.
Knowing your job.
Essentially, yes. And finally, number 6 is change. How well the organization manages transitions, communicates about them effectively and transparently.
Okay, those 6 make a lot of sense. How do organizations actually measure themselves against these standards?
Well, they can often use existing data they already collect, things like sickness and absence records, productivity metrics, staff turnover rates.
Stuff they might already track.
Exactly, or insights from performance appraisals, team meetings, even informal chats. But there are also specialized tools, like the HSE's own staff survey questionnaire.
Tell me about that.
It's an anonymous survey, typically around 35 questions, and the key thing is it gives feedback on the perceived cultural standards across those 6 areas.
So it's not asking individuals, are you stressed?
Precisely. It shifts the focus away from blaming individuals and onto identifying systemic issues within the organizational culture. That gives you really actionable intelligence.
That sounds much more constructive.
Yeah.
So what's the process after you get that feedback?
Typically, you identify the gaps. Where is the organization falling short compared to where it wants to be on each standard?
Okay.
Then you prioritize. Which areas need the most urgent attention? And based on that, you design targeted action plans.
And how long does this usually take?
For a larger organization, you might be looking at, say, 6 months for the assessment and analysis phase. Then maybe another year for implementing and monitoring the actions. And you'd probably have a review cycle of around 18 months.
It's an ongoing process then.
Absolutely. And a really crucial element throughout all of this is continuous consultation with staff. often through working groups. You need their input to make sure the solutions are relevant and actually get buy-in.
Right, it has to be done with people, not to them. Okay, so we've identified the gaps using these standards. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. What kind of specific control measures can organizations put in place for each standard? Let's start with demands.
Okay, for demands, it's all about balancing workload with capacity. So things like involving staff when reviewing working hours or shift systems, considering flexible working options,
Yeah.
developing systems so people know about tight deadlines in advance, holding meetings specifically to discuss workload, ensuring people have sufficient resources, providing training on things like prioritization.
Practical skills.
Exactly, including development plans and appraisals so growth feels supported, and importantly, dealing with any risks of violence or aggression if that's relevant to the roles.
Okay, that's quite a list for demands.
Yeah.
What about fostering control, giving employees that voice?
Right. For control, it could mean allowing staff genuine input on how work is organized, consulting them during project planning phases.
Getting them involved early?
Yes. Allocating responsibilities clearly within teams, discussing how decisions are made, and really trying to utilize the skills people already have.
Makes sense. And for support, that felt quite broad.
It is multifaceted. Regular one-to-one meetings are key here. Making work-related stress a normal agenda item. Having genuine open-door policies.
Approachable managers.
Absolutely. Supporting staff even with problems outside work, where appropriate. Disseminating information clearly about all the internal and external support available. HR, occupational health, counselors, charities.
Making sure people know where to go.
Crucial. Offering access to counseling services is a big one. And providing really robust support for employees when they return to work after an absence.
Okay. Now, relationships. How do you cultivate that positive environment?
Here, it's about setting clear expectations, developing and communicating clear policies on unacceptable behavior, bullying, harassment, implementing fair conflict resolution procedures.
Having processes in place.
Yes. Maybe introducing confidential reporting systems, having proper grievance and disciplinary procedures, actively trying to build balanced, supportive teams, providing training for handling difficult situations, and importantly, celebrating successes together.
Nice. Okay, fifth standard, role. Ensuring clarity.
Yeah, this is fundamental. Enabling staff to really clarify their roles, displaying team or department targets clearly so people see the bigger picture, agreeing on performance standards collaboratively.
Setting expectations.
Introducing personal work plans, maybe revising job descriptions if they're vague or outdated, and again, using those regular one-to-one meetings to check in on role clarity.
Good point. And finally, change. That's always a tricky one.
It really is. Effective management of change is vital. Ensure all staff understand why a change is happening. Define and explain the key steps clearly.
Transparency.
Hugely important. Ensure there's proper employee consultation and support throughout. Establish quick communication systems for updates and feedback before, during, and after the change.
Two-way communication.
Essential. Make sure staff understand how the change impacts their specific jobs, and provide systems for them to feedback their experiences and concerns.
That's a comprehensive set of examples.
And the critical thing to remember, as we touched on, is that these aren't just pick and mix solutions. They must be tailored.
Right.
Tailored to meet the specific needs identified by that organization's risk assessment. Otherwise, you risk wasting resources on things that aren't actually addressing the root causes.
Okay, that gives us a really solid understanding of the organizational side, the preventative, systemic approach. But what happens when, despite best efforts, an individual does need immediate support, or when issues have already come up? Let's shift focus now to what managers can do directly to help.
Okay. This fits really well within the World Health Organization's framework for managing mental health. They categorize interventions into three types.
Three types, okay.
First, there's prevention, or primary prevention. This is about stopping mental ill health conditions before they even occur.
Like the risk assessment approach we just discussed.
Exactly. Making changes to the task or the environment itself. Things like job enrichment, making work more interesting. Ergonomic improvements, reducing excessive workload, improving role clarity or social relationships at work. It's proactive.
Got it. What's the second type?
That's treatment, or secondary prevention. Here, a mental health condition has already begun, maybe in its early stages. The goal is early identification and intervention to prevent it from getting worse.
So catching things early.
Right. Organizations can offer support here through things like well-being initiatives, maybe offering confidential screening questionnaires to help people self-identify issues early.
Okay, and the third?
The third is rehabilitation or tertiary prevention. This is when someone has an ongoing condition. The aim here is to minimize its impact and help restore their capability.
Supporting recovery and return to function.
Precisely. Supporting employees in regaining skills, building back confidence, working in partnership with their carers or healthcare professionals to help them return to work effectively, or continue working productively.
Okay, those three categories, prevention, treatment, rehabilitation, provide a good structure. Building on that, what are some really practical actions managers can take day to day?
Well, it often starts with speaking to workers early and privately. If a manager has concerns, approach it as a work-related performance issue initially, rather than jumping to conclusions about someone's mental state.
Focus on the work aspect first.
Yes. Provide access to confidential support like employee assistance programs, EAPs, set clear times to review the situation, and definitely document those conversations.
Right. What else?
Using routine management tools effectively. This means fostering a culture where it feels okay to talk about mental health, implementing a clear mental health strategy, and being willing to make temporary reasonable adjustments.
Adjustments like what?
Could be altering workload for a period, offering flexible hours, adjusting the physical work environment, maybe a quieter space, allowing different rest times, having supportive return to work policies, maybe even relaxing absence rules temporarily, or providing extra support on the job.
So being flexible.
Very much so. Then there's supporting emotionally distressed workers. If someone seems overwhelmed, the key is to listen non-judgmentally. Encourage positive coping strategies, like maybe taking a walk or some exercise, and gently discourage negative ones, like excessive smoking or drinking.
And reassuring them.
Absolutely. Reassure them that help is always available. Managers should also be aware of potential warning signs. Big changes in eating or drinking habits, someone becoming very withdrawn, or, critically, expressing thoughts of self-harm. Those need immediate attention.
Okay. What about supporting workers who have an ongoing condition?
For supporting workers with ongoing conditions, active listening is paramount. Find out what support they find helpful, don't just assume. Treat their mental health condition with the same seriousness and importance as a physical health condition. Regular team meetings and, crucially, confidential one-to-one supervision meetings are vital tools here.
Right. It's about partnership.
Exactly. Managers can also be instrumental in encouraging healthy coping strategies, helping workers set boundaries around work, encouraging them to take on manageable tasks, maybe breaking bigger projects down, perhaps suggesting a mental health day off if needed and appropriate.
Little adjustments can make a big difference.
They really can. Another tool, which might be less common but is mentioned in our sources, is using advanced statements.
Advanced statements. What are those?
It's basically a document where a worker can write down their wishes for treatment or support if they were to become unable to make those decisions themselves in the future, perhaps due to a severe episode of illness. It reflects their views and values.
So it guides future care. Is it legally binding?
Not always legally binding in the same way as some other documents, but it provides crucial guidance and expresses the person's wishes. It's a powerful way to maintain some control.
Interesting. And finally,
And this is critical for managers knowing where to get external help. They aren't expected to be therapists.
right, they need boundaries too.
Absolutely. So managers need to be aware of and be able to confidently direct workers to relevant support services, the EAP, external counseling, and in the UK context, specific services like Access to Work, charities like Mind, the NHS website, Remploy, Rethink Mental Illness.
Yeah.
Knowing those resources is key.
Okay, that's a really helpful breakdown of manager actions across those WHO categories. Now, these workplace strategies, both organizational and individual, are clearly incredibly important. But our sources consistently seem to highlight something broader, too.
Yes, they do.
It feels like it's not just about policies and procedures within the workplace walls. Our well-being is deeply interconnected, isn't it? We need to broaden the lens.
Absolutely. You really can't separate work well-being from overall well-being. The foundational elements impact everything.
So what are those foundational elements?
Well, the sources strongly emphasize the profound benefits of key lifestyle factors. They really form the bedrock of mental well-being. Consider nutrition, for instance.
Food. How does that connect?
Well, the brain is an organ, right? It needs fuel. It requires carbohydrates, amino acids, water to stay healthy. What we eat and drink directly influences how we feel, think, and behave.
So you are what you eat applies to the brain too.
Very much so. A balanced diet doesn't just nourish the body, it actually protects the brain from damaging oxidants and positively impacts mood. There's even an established causal link between poor physical health, like obesity, and conditions like depression.
Wow, a causal link.
Yes. And conversely, diets rich in things like fruit, vegetables, fish, unsaturated fats, think olive oil, are linked to reduced depression. Even deficiencies in specific micronutrients like omega-3 and 6 fatty acids are associated with things like poor concentration, depression, and memory problems.
Okay, so nutrition is huge. What else?
Exercise, particularly aerobic exercise, things like jogging, swimming, cycling, brisk walking, gardening, even dancing. These are consistently linked to significant improvements in mental health. They've been shown to reduce anxiety, depression, and negative mood, while at the same time boosting self-esteem and cognitive function. It's also particularly important for certain groups, like patients with schizophrenia, who are often more vulnerable to obesity due to medication side effects or lifestyle.
Right. Are there other specific benefits of exercise for mental health?
Oh, yes. Regular exercise can improve sleep quality, which we'll come to. It can enhance libido, lower stress levels directly, improve mood, increase energy and stamina, reduce that feeling of constant tiredness, which improves mental alertness.
It helps with weight management too, which you link to depression.
Exactly. And it improves cardiovascular fitness. All of these things directly and powerfully benefit our mental health. It's a potent, natural intervention.
Okay, nutrition, exercise. What's the third pillar?
Sleep. And its importance really cannot be overstated. Sleep isn't just downtime, it's absolutely critical for recovering from both mental and physical exertion.
We all know we feel groggy without enough sleep.
It's more than just feeling groggy. Chronic lack of sleep creates its own insidious, vicious cycle.
Ah, that phrase again. How does it work with sleep?
Well, lack of sleep leads to tiredness, obviously. That makes it harder to cope with daily life, the everyday stresses. This can then reduce self-esteem and confidence, and it directly elevates stress levels.
And stress makes it harder to sleep.
Precisely. Elevated stress levels then further impair your ability to get good restorative sleep. So you get more tired, more stressed, sleep worse, and round it goes. It's a foundational pillar that, if neglected, genuinely undermines every other aspect of our well-being.
So it's really clear then. Good nutrition, regular exercise, sufficient sleep, these aren't just, nice to haves or fleeting lifestyle choices people make.
Not at all.
They are fundamental pillars. They underpin our mental well-being both inside the workplace and outside it. It's a truly holistic picture, isn't it? And one we perhaps often overlook in favor of more complex solutions.
That's a very good way to put it. The foundations matter immensely.
Wow, okay. What a journey we've taken in this deep dive. We've gone from understanding the societal and organizational costs of mental ill health, the absolute imperative for a strategic response.
Right, moving beyond just reaction.
Exactly. To the practical blueprint of things like the HSE management standards, those tailored control measures, and then the really crucial individual support mechanisms managers can use.
Covering prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation.
Yes. And we've brought it all full circle, landing on the absolutely foundational role of those lifestyle factors: nutrition, exercise, and sleep.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of it all, which I think raises an important question for you, our listener, to maybe mull over, considering this profound and frankly undeniable connection between organizational support systems and our fundamental personal well-being. How can you, maybe in your own role at work, maybe in your community, maybe just in your own life, how can you champion the integration of these holistic mental health principles? How can we all contribute to creating more resilient, more genuinely supportive environments for everyone?
That's a powerful thought to carry forward. How can we be part of the solution? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We really encourage you to continue your own journey of learning, understanding, and where possible, advocating for better mental health for all.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time on the deep dive.